Is Dak better than Brady? Cats gone wild, and a 17-game NFL season. We got lots to cover today in this week's roundup of Week 12 NFL news. Welcome back to Untitled Football and my new series on weekly NFL news. I'm going to cover off on 5 topics that you should know about headed into NFL's Week 12. And as usual, the last topic that I cover, I'll give you a couple points arguing both sides of the topic and ask you for your opinion. Without further ado, let's get started with the first topic. Is Dak Prescott better than Tom Brady in the 2019-2020 football season? That's the question I have for you guys. Definitely leave your answer to that question in the comments below. You might want to hear what I have to say before you just go ahead and answer that question. So first, when we think about Tom Brady is one of the elite quarterbacks, obviously a Hall of Famer. He's playing in his 50th season in the NFL or something crazy like that. However, when you look at Tom Brady's numbers this season, he hasn't been doing as elite as he has in previous seasons. Yes, he's still winning, and yes, the Patriots are still at the top of the league. Dak Prescott has the #1 offense in the league with the Dallas Cowboys, and they have now been considered a passing team. They have Ezekiel Elliott, which we all know is one of the elite backs in the league, and Dak Prescott has turned into one of the elite quarterbacks. If you look at some of his numbers, he's passed for over 3,000 yards this season. He leads the NFL with those numbers. He also is second in the NFL with passing touchdowns at 21. His passer rating outside the numbers on those edges of the field, 116, and his completion rate with those passes is over 70%. In Week 12, he has a matchup against the Patriots, 2 top teams in the league right now, and I guess we're gonna find out. Now, what's interesting about Dak is I have him on my fantasy team. I've got Dak Prescott, I've got Deshaun Watson. I drafted Deshaun Watson as my first QB, as my QB1. Throughout the season, I've been alternating the quarterbacks as they've both been pretty streaky. Last week, I sat Watson and I started Dak Prescott. That turned out to be the right decision as Dak gave me over 38 points and Deshaun Watson -3. This week, I started Deshaun Watson and I sat Dak Prescott. The reason why I sat Dak Prescott after last week's performance is because he's going up against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Deshaun Watson had his match against the Colts, and on Thursday, he ended up giving me 22 points in fantasy, which is super solid for my team. With Dak's streakiness, unsure about how he's going to perform, excited to see that game later today. In fact, that game may be going on depending on when you're watching this video. Overall, with as well as Dak is doing, I still wouldn't put him in elite status if I can't trust him to start on my fantasy team each week. I want to hear from you guys what you think about Dak and his performance. Is he an elite quarterback? Is he better than Tom Brady this season? Let me know in the comments below. The next story I have for you is about cats running wild on the football field. Last night, if you were watching the South Florida football game, you know that a gray cat ran on the football field. Last week, if you were watching the Giants game, you know that there was another black cat at MetLife Stadium. So what's with all the cats? When I first read about this story, I debated whether or not it was even worth having on the channel. I did some research and turns out it is. So what's with all the cats on football fields? I can't speak about the USF game, but I can speak about MetLife. It turns out at MetLife Stadium, there are over 300 feral cats that live in the stadium. According to representatives with the team, there's over 7 or 8 colonies of these cats that are fed. The cats are fed by an employee of MetLife Stadium named the Cat Man. I haven't been able to figure out who this Cat Man is. If you guys are Giants fans or Jets fans or know anything about the cat situation, definitely comment below. If you know who this Cat Man employee is who's feeding the cats, comment down below as well. My question for you on this topic is, do you think cats running on football fields is even newsworthy? Frankly, I'm personally tired of seeing this all over the internet, seeing it on Instagram. I feel like there's much better sports news, but it's a big topic, so I include it on here. While you guys are pondering that question, I'm gonna put together a montage for you on cats running on football fields. All right, so that's enough cats. On to the third topic of the day. Ryan Russell, NFL veteran who's played for the Dallas Cowboys and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was seen earlier this week in London with his boyfriend. Yes, you heard it right, with his boyfriend. A couple months ago, Ryan Russell came out as bisexual to the public through a very emotional essay. The craziest thing about this whole story is that it's news. By definition, when we think about news, news is something that's outside of the ordinary. What it tells you is that football players, or athletes in general, being in non-conformative relationships is something that we still consider taboo. Ryan Russell has received awards with his impact to the LGBT community for his bravery in coming out. NFL players will tell you that having homosexual or bisexual players on the team is nothing new. What is new is the publicity that it gets or being out in the locker room. It's kind of that don't ask, don't tell mentality. Right now, Ryan Russell is not signed to an NFL team. He is a free agent. And when he came out earlier this year in August, he was a free agent at that time. I do have to wonder, now that he's come out, is he going to be signed? To my recollection, there's been no active NFL player who's come out. All the ones that I'm familiar with who have came out have either not been signed to a team when they came out or came out after they were done playing. Now, for the record, I'm not advocating sexuality either way, so please don't take that away from this news story. What I am advocating is that each person should be allowed to be who they want to be without it being news or anyone judging their choices. If you do have a comment on this subject, definitely write it below. I do read all the comments. If it is something ignorant or derogatory, trust it will be deleted. Now that we're in week 12, I want to take a first look at the playoff picture. It's still a little bit early, but my question for you is, which two teams do you think are going to make it to the Super Bowl? Now I'm going to break this down for some of my younger viewers or some of my viewers who don't know how the NFL playoffs work. The NFL is split into two conferences. You've got the American Conference, the AFC, and you got the National Conference, the NFC. In each conference, there's 4 divisions. So for example, in the AFC, you've got the AFC East, AFC West, AFC North, and AFC South. There's 4 teams, 4 divisions, so 16 teams for each conference. That's 32 teams in the league. There are 6 teams from each conference who make the playoffs. The top team in each division, so that's 4 teams from each conference, make the playoffs. The top 2 teams following each of those 4 teams of each conference also make the wildcard round in the playoffs. Sitting at the top of the AFC are the Patriots, who are also the favorites to make it to the Super Bowl from the AFC. Now, when we turn our attention to the NFC, the 49ers have the best record there. However, the New Orleans Saints are the favorites to make it to the Super Bowl from the NFC. Now, if you want my opinion, I think the game today between Dak and Tom Brady is going to be what we're going to see in the Super Bowl. And yes, right now the Cowboys are only 6-4. They're still at the top of their division. And with that, that's all they're going to need to make it through the playoffs and head to the big game in Miami. Now for the big debate question of Week 12. The NFL and the NFL Players Association are currently discussing a 17-game NFL season. Currently, today, the NFL is a 16-game season spread out over 17 weeks. That's why each team has a bye week. In the past, the NFL has had 12-game seasons. They've had 14-game seasons. I think for the last 20 or 40 years, there's been a 16-game season. So that's pretty much the game that we all know, the game that we all love. It's always been a 16-game season with 1 bye week. Now, there's a couple reasons why it makes sense for the NFL to go to a 17-week season. First reason on that is we all love football and we can't get enough. Right now, the NFL season, including the Super Bowl, only covers 5 months of the year. When we compare that to the other major sports in the US, hockey, baseball, basketball, all of those have at least 7-month seasons. So already we're missing out on 2 months of football. I know a lot of you know that. It's so short from September to February, and then we've got that whole summer until we have football back in the fall again. One of the other reasons the NFL is thinking about moving to a 17-game season is because of the revenue that can be generated. Obviously, with more weeks of football, that means higher TV deals, that means more ad revenue from sponsors, and most importantly, that means the NFL can expand outside of the US. Now let's think about this. The NFL has been playing games in London for a number of years. Each time, that's one game that's taken away from the US and put in London. Those games are televised at odd hours because a lot of times we're not up. It also takes away from the revenue generated from one of the stadiums in the US. Moving to a 17-game season means that the NFL will be able to expand their game to London. That way, each team could potentially have 1 game in London. So that means at least 17 games to be played in London. That's going to open the door to the NFL for European sponsorships, European TV deals, European attendance, and a whole new market for the NFL. Now, if we flip the coin and we think about the other side, expanding to a 17-game season is the worst idea for the NFL. Already, the players have so much wear and tear on their bodies. If you guys play fantasy, you see directly how many of the players are questionable, how many players are on IR, how many players are just out due to injury. Expanding just 1 more season is going to lead to a lot more injuries in the NFL. To combat that, the NFL is going to have to change its rules, which is going to change the game from the way it's played today. That's the only way that I can see that players being able to withstand another game in the season. What it may also mean is that we may have to have an additional bye week in a 17-game season. That means for each of our favorite teams, we're going to have another week of no football. And lastly, by going to 17 games, you're going to have to pay the players more. And why I think that may not be a good thing is because that's going to give some of those players even more power over the league than they already have. So that's the big question I have for you. Do you think the NFL should move to a 17-game football season? Why or why not? Answer in the comments below and I'll put my favorite answers on my Instagram. So that's it. That's the news that I have for you in week 12. If you like this video, remember to give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, follow me on social media, and I'll see you guys next time.